Happy Friday and welcome to Brewers Daily here. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. And, we're at the end of the week here. There's a lot still to happen here in the MLB offseason. We've got Christmas coming up next week. Super excited for that. And maybe the Brewers will get some presents under the tree for us here in these next couple of days. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about Jackson Chourio, talk a little bit about the international scene here that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks here for the Brewers as well. And I want to start really with the outfield in general for the Milwaukee Brewers. Taking a look at the outfield depth because we've seen some changes to that group here. Just this past week started with Akil Baddoo signing with the Brewers, and then Isaac Collins getting shipped out. So I want to just kind of reset the outfield depth, the outfield picture for the Milwaukee Brewers heading into next season. So, in right field, it's going to be basically the exact same thing. Sal Frelick is going to be your everyday right fielder out there for the Brewers. You could put some, Garrett Mitchell out there, Jackson Chourio out there if Sal Frelick needs a day. But Sal Frelick, by and large, is going to be playing every single day out there in right field. In center field, you're going to have quite the mix. You got Blake Perkins, Garrett Mitchell, and Jackson Chourio, all potentially getting lead playing time out there. Those are three very strong contenders. You also got Brandon Lockridge as a depth piece in center field as well that the Brewers could turn to. And then in left field, you got Jackson Chourio, Garrett Mitchell, and Christian Yelich as your primary options that are going to be out there. There's going to be a lot of weaving in and out. With some of these guys, especially Mitchell and Perkins. Chourio and Frelick are the safe bets to play just about every single day. Christian Yelich largely going to be playing at DH. So that, removes him really kind of largely from the outfield picture, but he's still an outfielder. He's still going to get some time out there in left field. Chourio, he can be in center. He can be in left. He can play either of those two places just fine. I would imagine next year with Garrett Mitchell back that, for however long that is, hopefully the whole season, but as long as Garrett Mitchell is healthy, I would imagine it would be some combination of Mitchell and Perkins in center field and Jackson Chourio playing in left, and Christian Yelich is going to be the DH. And then you can add in there as well Akil Baddoo as an option, kind of further down the line here. And also in left field, you could put Tyler Black. Again, I'm not expecting Tyler Black to play much for him to really be a threat for playing time or even a big league roster spot at this point. But he's still on the 40-man. So as long as he's still there, he's going to be mentioned in the depth. And then also kind of lingering around in the back, you have Stuart Baroa that is still there on the 40-man roster. And he could potentially, again, you're going to have a couple of guys get injured and be out for a little bit for Baroa and Tyler Black to really kind of be called up for some regular playing time. But still, it's a pretty deep group that the Brewers have there. Again, led by Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio. Then you got Mitchell and Perkins. They're going to be vying for some pretty good playing time. Christian Yelich is going to be there. You got Lockridge, who's probably their primary depth option, but Akil Baddoo not far behind. Baddoo, a left-handed depth option. Lockridge, the right-handed depth option. And then Stuart Baroa, switch hitter, in case you forgot that, which I did until I was just now looking at it for this show here. So don't worry about that. And Tyler Black, also a left-handed hitter. Very left-handed heavy group here for the Brewers outfield, but still. So it's a pretty deep, pretty strong group, which is why it made sense to trade away Isaac Collins, especially after Akil Baddoo ended up getting brought into the picture here. So, but obviously one of the big pieces for that Brewers outfield is Jackson Chourio. And towards the end of that playoff run, Jackson Chourio, he had the hamstring injury. We saw it happen in the Cubs series. He injures the hamstring and he tries to play through it and he's managing it, but you can tell he's clearly not 100% throughout the rest of the postseason. And now that we're, 2 months removed really from the Brewers getting eliminated in the playoffs, now Jackson Chourio has started winter ball in Venezuela. He's done this, for the past 5 years playing winter ball for Aguilas in Venezuela in his home country. So he's officially starting play down there. He's let his hamstring recover over the last 2 months, and it's feeling good, and back towards 100%. So it's good to see Jackson Chourio back out there. He loves playing winter ball, and I think he's going to be allowed to play through the rest of the winter ball season down there, and even into the playoffs if potentially necessary for his team down there. So good to see Jackson Chourio being able to play and be out there. He also did tell reporters in Venezuela. He told them that he can only be the DH. So the Brewers are allowing him to play winter ball, yes, but they don't really want him doing a ton of sprinting and outfield activity for them. So they're like, okay, you can play, but only for the at bats. They're only going to allow him to be the DH down there. Obviously, they have $82 million invested in this kid, and he's coming off, a bum hamstring, in this playoff run. So the Brewers are going to want to play careful. They want to allow him to play, but they want to be careful. They want to be cautious with him, especially if he could potentially also be playing in the World Baseball Classic for Venezuela next spring. When March comes around, if he's playing then, and he's starting spring training a little bit earlier, things like that, I think it's smart to be extra cautious with him. So he's only going to be allowed to be the DH, but he was leading off Thursday night for his team in the Venezuelan Winter League, and he's able to be back out there and getting his ABs. And he actually, he reached on an error, routine ground ball to shortstop that he hit, and he was, running hard down the line, which forced the throwing error from Orlando Arcia, the shortstop for the other team. Old friend, old friend Orlando Arcia. I mean, he's still beloved in Milwaukee. Still, I believe the Brewers' all-time postseason home runs leader, or at least tied for it. So, I mean, Orlando Arcia, Brewers legend. But yeah, he made the throwing error on Jackson Chourio there down in Venezuelan winter ball. So small world down there, which is just crazy. But Jackson Chourio, it's smart to be cautious with him because really, I think 2026 is going to be a really big year, massive year for Jackson Chourio because if you have him fully healthy, I mean, this past year he missed a whole month with a hamstring injury, and he missed basically all of August. He missed the entire 14-game winning streak, which was unexpected considering he was such a big part of that offense the entire time. And then as soon as he goes out, they win 14 games in a row. But still, he missed a whole month, so that kind of took a hit on some of his counting stats for the season. But 2026, I think is going to be a big year because now he's got 2 years under his belt. The sophomore slump kind of deal is out of the way a little bit, and now that he's going to be 22, he's going to be starting to more fully hit his stride here a little bit. He's got a very solid base of experience at the big league level now, and I think this could be where we really see a jump for Jackson Chourio as he figures out some more things at the big league level. I think we could see that power tick up a little bit more. We could potentially see the stolen base numbers tick up a little bit more. I think those are things that we can absolutely look to see from him next year. I mean, he put up some very similar numbers across both of his first two seasons. In 2024, he had 21 home runs, had 79 RBIs, hit 275. He struck out 121 times, 791 OPS, 118 OPS plus. In 2025, he hit 21 home runs. He had 78 RBIs. He struck out 121 times. He had 270, had a 770 OPS, and a 112 OPS plus. So very similar there. 22 stolen bases in 2024 in his rookie season, 21 stolen bases last year. Very, very similar numbers across the board for Jackson Chourio. So, and he did it in 17 fewer games. So again, if he had more of those games where he missed with the hamstring injury, then we likely see a lot of those counting stats just a little bit higher. But I think this is truly where we can now see a jump coming forward in Jackson Chourio heading into his age 22 season. Again, provided he stays healthy, doesn't miss a month with a hamstring. He hasn't really had the injury concerns that some other players have had, but that's where we could really maybe see the jump for him in terms of reaching that full potential, maybe getting closer to the production type of like a Ronald Acuna Jr. Because that was a lot of the comps for Jackson Chourio when he was coming through the system, when he was making his major league debut. The comps for Chourio were Ronald Acuna Jr. That's really what you were looking at here. I mean, you were looking at a superstar talent, and he has proven himself to be a star. And especially, in the big stage, in postseason moments, he steps up to the plate. I mean, he is phenomenal when the lights are brightest. When the lights are brightest, he shines the brightest. He is phenomenal in those moments. And of course, we got robbed of that a little bit when he pulled his hamstring in the Cubs series early on there. But still, I think we end up getting a full season from Chourio this next year. I think the stats are going to jump even more. I mean, instead of just over 20 home runs, I think we could be looking at 25 to 30, maybe even 30 plus. He's legitimately got that kind of power, 30 plus power. I think if he wants to get more aggressive on the base paths, I think he could have 30 plus stolen bases as well. I mean, he could easily be a 30-30 guy. I mean, he's been 20-20, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But I think there's even another level he can get to. I don't think he's topping out at just a 20-20 type hitter, 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. No, I think he's someone who's got much more potential, much more ability in him. I think he can hit 30 plus each year and still maintain that pretty high batting average and still maintain the really good all around numbers. So that's where, I mean, now that he's gotten that kind of sophomore slump out of the way, he's got more experience. And I just think this is going to be a really, really big year for Jackson Chourio coming up in 2026. So I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited for what it's going to bring for him and for the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Brewers, they signed Jackson Chourio back in 2021, and it's hard to believe it was only a couple of years ago that they just signed him as a teenager coming out of Venezuela. And now we've got we're going to have a fresh class coming in just a couple of weeks. International free agency that starts January 15th. It officially opens up. That's how the Brewers got Jackson Chourio. That's how you get the players from Venezuela, from the Dominican Republic, from these countries in order to continue to stock and develop your farm system. And you can get superstar talents like this. That's where they get Chourio. That's where they got Jesus Maide, who's their top prospect, Luis Pena, who's their second best prospect, and all these other guys throughout the system. I mean, it's such a key player acquisition front. So, and the Brewers have done a great job in the international market. What they've done in Venezuela, I mean, they have built an absolute powerhouse down there in terms of recruiting players and signing players from Venezuela. And we actually saw some drama happen here today. So, I mean, typically these deals are agreed to like years in advance. I mean, these kids can't sign until they're 16. A lot of them agree to deals at like 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. These kids are getting scouted and they are getting signed, quote unquote, where they are verbally agreeing to deals with teams. They cut off their, recruitment process, kind of similar to college recruiting for like college football and things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this school. And they kind of cut off recruiting. But that doesn't mean other schools, it doesn't mean other teams can't still kind of look around and be like, hey, we're going to offer you more money for you to come to us instead. And that doesn't mean those kids can't be swayed, which we just saw with one of the top international prospects in this year's class that ended up switching to the New York Mets instead of the New York Yankees. So that just adds to that rivalry, which is purely, incredible. But Wandy Oxygen was someone who was promised to the New York Yankees for the longest time. And then now, just a few weeks before signing day, he flips and he's going to sign with the Mets for just about $4 million, which is a large portion of the bonus pool. The Brewers generally don't play those types of games. The Brewers generally don't put themselves in the $4 million bonus pool type market. What the Brewers do instead is they'll pick like generally two or three, of their top players in the class that they'll give bonuses to, generally around $1 million, million to $1.5 million for their top guys, and then they'll spread out the rest of the money across like 30 other players. It's generally like 30 player classes for the Milwaukee Brewers for who they sign internationally. Some teams like to switch it up and they will go all in on a certain top guy and they will spend like 80 to 90% of their bonus pool on that guy and they'll only sign like five other dudes and that's about it. The Brewers they go for a quantity approach. They go for as many, to borrow a phrase, as many bites at the apple as possible. These guys, I mean, the international signings, the 16-year-olds from Venezuela, are pure lottery tickets. And with the Powerball jackpot, like $1.5 billion right now, you want as many lottery tickets as you can get. If you're going to win, if you're going to hit the jackpot, you need as many lottery tickets as possible. I know I've certainly been buying multiple this whole week, and no luck yet, sadly. But maybe eventually, Saturday. Who knows? We'll see. But you need to get as many lottery tickets as possible, and that's how the Brewers generally tend to approach international free agency. That's why they're not really getting involved with spending $4 million on Wandy Oxygen. As good of a player as he might be, but the Brewers' strategy has worked because it's gotten them Jackson Chourio. It's gotten them Jesus Made. It's gotten them a number of other of these top international prospects. They're just littered throughout the system that the Brewers have. So that's going to be an area to watch in the coming weeks. We don't yet know exactly who all the Brewers are going to be signing on January 15th, but it's going to be an area to watch because those names, those guys, they could very well be the next studs, the next superstars in this system. And I mean, it didn't take long for Jesus Made to go from just being signed as a 16-year-old to all of a sudden, whoa, this guy is a dude, and he is going to move up quickly. And it didn't take long for him to go from 16-year-old in the Dominican Summer League to playing in Double-A Biloxi, and being someone that the Brewers are kind of sort of planning their team around. Because, I mean, if the Brewers really wanted a shortstop solution, if they wanted an upgrade over Joey Ortiz, and they didn't have Jesus Made, they very well could be looking for a shortstop solution out there in free agency or trade, and trying to spend big money to get someone like that. But they don't have to because they know they have got three top shortstops in their system that are all going to be ready very soon. Cooper Pratt, Jesus Made, Luis Pena, bing, bang, boom. Right down the line that are going to be ready very soon. So why bother going and signing Bo Bichette to a 7-year deal when you can just wait a year and you're going to have an absolute stud for the next 7 years after that? That's how the Brewers are going to have to roll. Because, again, just the market economics of baseball, that's just what it ends up being. So there is some drama in international free agency. It's bothering the Mets and the Yankees right now. It's adding to that rivalry. But the Brewers are kind of steering clear of that. They've got their guys pretty well set. They already know who basically they're going to end up signing on January 15th when it opens up. But still, we don't yet know who all those guys are, but we'll be finding out in the coming weeks. So very excited for that. And when that does happen in mid-January, we will talk to you about just about as many of them as we can, and keep you updated on everything that's happening there and everything that's going to be going on here with the Brewers offseason. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode here of Brewers Daily. Follow me on Twitter as well at dgasper24. You can find all my insights on the Brewers there as well. And never miss an episode because we got a lot of great stuff coming up. And very excited for what's to come here in this Brewers offseason. Thank you for listening here and enjoying on this Friday edition. And we'll see you again next week and talk to you again on Brewers Daily.